Good evening. As we run to get our seats, I call this regularly scheduled Dunwoody City Council meeting of November 29th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to order unless I see an objection. Seeing none, this meeting is called to order. Councilwoman Harris.
At this meeting, help us to make decisions which keep us faithful to our mission and reflect our values. Give us strength to hold to our purpose, wisdom to guide us, and a keen perception to lead us. And above all, keep us charitable as we deliberate. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Gonna do public comment now as I fall off my chair. I'll do that after in a second. We'll go ahead and do public comment. Bob Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Bob Dallas, and I live at 1445 Valley View Road. As we know, the legislature just finished up its special session to address redistricting. And obviously, we read a lot about the congressional districting as well as the local legislative redistricting. But also during this process, of course, is the counties, school boards, and cities will have to focus on redistricting. And we have seen Dunwoody, according to the recent census, has grown by about 5,000 people. So that will result in redistricting. And when we look at Dunwoody in the past, in 2008, when the city was being formed, council seats were drawn. And then in 2010, they were revised to reflect the districting at that, the census at that time. Well, what's interesting is you may have caught the conversation in Gwinnett County about a senator proposing changes independent of consulting the county commissioners, and it also affected the school board. So what I've left with all of you is an article in the AJC, which appeared last week, which I thought was interesting because the senator and the members of the commission, as well as the local delegation, got together and realized they should step back and talk about things together, which I think is great. But the neat part about it is that they also are involving the public. They're going to have public hearings about what's being proposed so they can weigh in on that, which is why I'm here tonight. My hope is that this city council, as it considers what the new maps have to look at for the city of Dunwoody, will take the opportunity to share that with the public before they're given to the delegation or to the legislature to be changed into law. So that's my conclusion, is just asking as a citizen of Dunwoody who's been here like you all for a long time and loves the transparency that we have so that citizens can get involved in something as important as redistricting for our city council seats. So I just want to say thank you, wish you a very merry season of, holiday season, and hopefully each of you had a great Thanksgiving. So thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Rosenkoff. And if Alyssa wants to come with you, she can. Okay. And they are.
Thank you, Mayor and council people.
right.
I'm ladies first always, so I'm going to let my daughter speak first.
Yeah, Alyssa, if you'll just speak into the microphone, get as close as you can, please.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Rosenkoff. I am a part of the Petri Junior Wildcats over at Petri Middle School, and I'm speaking as a voice for all the girls who play softball there. And for Dunwoody, we have to share one field between 3 teams, the Dunwoody Junior Varsity and the varsity and us. And unfortunately, we are third in line. So whenever there's like rain or some sort of something that occurs with the field, we are not allowed to play because, of course, our fields are also made of dirt. And over on the boys' side, their fields are made of turf. So they are still able to play. I'm also speaking because they have better quality stuff. They have lights, they have bathrooms. Over on our side, we have a regular porta potty, which is not always there. And also we do not have lights. So during the night games, we unfortunately cannot really see very well. And we have to use like flashlights and stuff. Also, there's not a lot of room, and the hitting cages are very dangerous, and especially for the coaches who pitch to us in the hitting cages do not get the chance to be very safe because they're made of metal and they have to move out of the way and sometimes get very hurt. There's also no room for the pitchers and catchers to work on the pitching. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That was very well stated. Go ahead.
Thank you. I also put in comments so that I can help elaborate on this. My name is Matthew Rosenkopf. I'm a resident of Dunwoody. I volunteered my time to help create this first ever inaugural middle school softball team out of Peachtree Middle School. There is a need. We had girls who were going to private schools outside of Dunwoody because there was not a middle school team. So there was a desire for young ladies to want to play sport. There were so many people that came out. We had a great support from the community. But then we started quickly realizing that there weren't a lot of facilities. As my daughter mentioned, the baseball fields that are attached to their middle school are not equipped to be able to handle softball games. While we were allowed, if we wanted certain time to practice in the outfields, they were not conducive to be able to play games. Dunwoody High School coaches were incredibly supportive to allow us to use the fields when they were not using it. Obviously, they got first priority. When the seasons got later and they lost games and they had to make up games, unfortunately, we would get bumped. We understood that. We knew what it was going into it. But as we moved into October, the darkness started coming a little bit earlier. So girls had to leave from school to go play games that had to end by a certain time, or we couldn't play because there are no lights. We had girls that had to run to gas stations to use the bathrooms because there were porta potties that weren't always brought there. You go over to the boys' baseball sides, and that's not there. So what we ask is, we know you are considering using the city's tax dollars to build wonderful new facilities. We encourage that. We would hope you would consider the girls, because girls just want to have fields. They just want to play, and they're looking for equal access, and hopefully before our girls graduate high school. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of public comment. I don't have any other cards. There'll be another session at the end of the meeting. Council, can I have a moment of privilege, please? Thank you. I want Chief Grogan, I want to recognize you for 40 years of public service in public safety. That is quite a milestone, and we are so grateful that you have spent more than 10 years of your career here in Dunwoody. You have led our police force with honor and distinction. You built our police force from nothing to where we are today, and we are incredibly grateful. And we have a little presentation that we'd like to give you. It's not so little. That we'd like to give you and to mark your 40th year of public service in public safety. So, turn it around. Okay. Nope, that's this, you got to flip it. Yes, this is the big unveiling. All right, so this is for you to use for your challenge coin collection. And we wanted to commemorate this really spectacular milestone. There are not many people who mark 40 years in any career, and to mark 40 years in public safety shows a lifetime of work, giving back to the community, most lately our community, but other communities as well. And the responsibility you have to protect and serve the residents of our community and communities in the past. And so we really commend you, and we wanted to do something small to mark this moment. And so congratulations on reaching 40 years, and thank you for serving Dunwoody.
Mayor, I really appreciate the sentiment and the recognition. It's been a joy for me to be able to work here in Dunwoody. It's such a welcoming community and a supportive community of the police department, and it's great to work with the team that I have here in Dunwoody. So thank you very much.
And then I, thank you. Okay, come in, we'll do one for all of us.
Wonder why all these people.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. Hello. And now I need, I'm sorry. I need to amend the motion, I need to amend the agenda, please. I need to add a new number 17, which is a resolution to appoint a member to the Dunwoody Planning Commission. We had a resignation today, and in order to make sure we have a quorum for the December meeting, I need to add this to the agenda. It was going to be on the December agenda. This way we can be assured we'll have a quorum on the December Planning Commission meeting.
Move to add a new item 17 for addition of a planning commission candidate.
Thank you, Jim.
Second.
Moved by Jim, second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion, the amendment, the agenda is amended. Thank you. Next, Mr. Matthews from the Georgia Department of Transportation with an update on the top end 285 projects.
Good evening. Someone going to put the presentation screen?
Who has the presentation? Did you email it to someone?
Yeah.
Is it in the shared drive? Somebody should be back there. Somebody. There's somebody, Sharon thinks that, right.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
Okay, no
they're
worries.
coming. Yeah, it's on the agenda. Nobody's there? Oh. Okay, he's here. It's in the agenda. Johnsbog.
What is today's date?
The 29th.
There we go. Here. I just need to share the screen. Can you see it now? Okay, cool. You have to-
You're gonna be able to click right on it.
Let's see, you're actually, it's a PDF. You're gonna have to scroll up
Okay.
and down like that. Cool, you got it?
Sounds good. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor,
Good evening.
council members. Pleasure to be here with you this evening. And just a reminder, my name is Tim Matthews with Georgia Department of Transportation. I work in now the State Express Lanes office, or Express Lanes office we created back in August to manage all the express lane projects that are in this program. Formerly in the Innovative Delivery Office as the MMIP Program Manager, now at the administrator for the Express Lanes office for Georgia DOT. So a little bit of an organizational change at the department, because we recognize that these projects are big, complicated, challenging projects. We wanted to focus on those individually and the delivery model, which I'll talk to you about here in just a few minutes. Just a little bit of a disclaimer. What I'm going to give you an update on is really what we were pursuing before from a procurement strategy to what we're looking at right now. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made still to make sure we understand what these projects need to be delivered, what the industry is looking for when it comes to these type big mega projects. And so we don't want to make any rush decisions to only later have to back up. So that's why I'm not going to be able to tell you, here's the date that these projects are going to be delivered. Here's exactly how they're going to be delivered, et cetera. But it'll be a high overview on why we're making these changes and really where we're headed down the road, subject to final decisions from leadership. I'm going to try to move this down here. Okay, here we go. I'll just use the mouse. All right, so I'll talk about I-285 advanced improvement projects, because there's a few projects that we are advancing and show you where the status of those are. I'll talk about the 400 Express Lane project. I know it does not is not here in Dunwoody necessarily, but there's a big connection to State Route 400 as it relates to 285 and the BRT and transit message there. And then give you an update on I-285 Express Lanes and really the procurement strategy that we've gone and shifted to and moving forward. And then talk about Express Lanes Transit with Mayor. You certainly know what's going on there with regards to the effort with the top 10 mayors. And let me know if I don't have it on the screen appropriately, please. So I-285 Petri Industrial Boulevard interchange improvements. Everyone knows that's a congested interchange, and particularly the movement coming westbound to north on PIB. This project combines I-285 westbound exit ramps to Peachtree Industrial Boulevard north and south while adjusting the horizontal curve, which is pretty tight in there, of the north exit ramp to reduce bottleneck on 285. The DB team is preparing to submit final bridge plans. Doraville is repaving part of PIB soon, and GDOT is coordinating with them. Colonial Pipeline relocation is forthcoming. Construction is slated to start in 2022 with a substantial completion in 2023. It's not a large project, so it'll go pretty quick, subject to traffic management and so on. So that's the project. I believe it's been awarded to a contractor, so they should be getting started relatively soon. So that's the update on that project. I-285 East Side bridge replacements, three bridges in particular are being replaced as a result of the express lanes moving in the future. Replaces Covenant Highway over 285, Red Wing Circle over 285 and Glenwood Road. That project is slated to start construction in 2022 and substantial completion in 2023. That project is awarded, and I believe the contractor's mobilizing as we speak. The I-285 westbound auxiliary lane extension, that's the extension of the auxiliary lanes that are being built by the Transform Interchange 285 400 interchange project. That project construction starting 2023, substantial completion in 2025. A little bit behind the other projects, but is moving forward as an advanced improvement project. The environmental document anticipated to be approved in Q1 of 2022, which sets the stage for that project to move forward. And that'll be an extension of where the current project is being built ends and somewhere past Roswell Road, and then take you all the way to Riverside Drive on 285. There were 400 express lanes. Unfortunately, we were not able to award the project in the previous procurement back in August, and I won't go into all the reasons why. The most important message here is that the project's not canceled. It is a priority for the state, and it is a needed project, and will move forward in some capacity into the future. I can't tell you when that's going to be. I will say it is a priority, and it will probably go first before 285 because it's ready to go. The environmental document's been approved on that project, and we just got to decide how we want to reprocure that so we can hopefully get the industry to react and bring forward a plan to build that project moving forward. So the message there is it is not canceled. We'll soon let everyone know, probably in the first quarter of 2022, what the plan is on how to procure it and the timing for what that's going to look like. The State Route 400 design, phase 1 design build project. We had an infra grant on that State Route 400 express lane project to the tune of $184 million that had to meet certain milestone requirements from a construction perspective. And if we didn't meet that, we lose the money. So what we did is broke State Route 400 into 2 phases. Phase 1 being a series of bridge replacements that have to happen as a result of the express lanes. And that project is going to move forward and it started procurement already. Therefore, we're meeting the requirements in the infra grant moving forward, so we don't lose that money. So that project construction will start in 2023, which is that milestone date I talked about, with substantial completion in 2024 on that State Route 400 corridor. So phase 1, 3 bridges. Phase 2 is the rest of the express lanes on 400. So I-285 express lanes. Our previous procurement approach was a design, build, finance, maintain strategy, which basically brings a private developer in to finance the project and build the project and ultimately maintain the project for a 30-35 year period. And we, with Georgia DOT and the state, we're going to be responsible for paying that project off over that 35-year period, similar to a mortgage payment that you'd have when you buy a house. With that type of strategy, we were only able to afford so much. And what you see on the screen here is I-285 top end, giving you 2 lanes in each direction, barrier separated from just past 75 to just past 85. But on the east and west side of 285, we could only afford 1 lane in each direction, buffer separated on that corridor. And I mean, truly buffer, no pylons, nothing, just like you see on 85. So looking at what was needed and what other options are out there to help us get what we needed on these projects, we started looking at procurement strategies, engaging the industry to find out what other ways to procure this project to get everything we wanted and needed on 285. Ultimately, after about a year-long effort behind the scenes, all the while moving these projects forward, with this environmental document was at DC for legal sufficiency, the EIS document. So we're well on our way to get the top end done. We found that there is a way to get what we need on the 285 corridor, and that is using a new P3 approach called a revenue risk model. And basically it's a P3, just like the other model, only the developer is going to come in, bring the financing for the project, pay for the project, operate and maintain the project and build the project for a 50-year period. That can change, probably around a 50, could be a little bit longer, probably not less than that. The goal here is we get 2 lanes in each direction all the way around, and also try to reduce as much public subsidy as possible. We don't know what we need to bring to the table when it comes to money, but the idea here is to use this model to have the private sector build and pay themselves back by collecting the revenue. That's really how that works. That gives us the ability to reduce our public subsidy piece and also get more value, such as the additional lane on 285, approximately 21% more capacity in that regard. Also potentially new access points that we couldn't afford either. I mean, you look at PIB, we couldn't afford an access point there. The developer may want an access point to the express lanes at that location because it gives them the ability to generate new additional revenue. Stone Mountain Freeway over on the east side, it was too expensive, right? So, and we were also contemplating taking out some access points at the Transform Interchange project because they were too expensive and we were over our budget. So this is going to give us the ability to get more value, and that value could be anything I just talked about there, including little to no public subsidy for the state. Where are we at with this change? Well, we're refining the concept. Top end is not going to change that much. It was already 2 lanes in each direction, barrier separated. We do have to adjust the endpoints because they were originally tying into 1 lane in each direction, so we have to adjust that. So the environmental document has to be retooled a little bit, but not have to go back to the drawing board in that case. So it'll help us keep priority on that project and move forward as quickly as possible. The east and west side is adding an additional lane with a barrier separation. So that's going to add a lot more, scope out there. And we have to open that environmental document back up and elevate that from an EA to an EIS, which will take some time. So those projects will probably get shifted out a little bit. We don't know when yet, but the idea is, adding more scope and impact, then you're going to have to do more work environmentally. So that's where we're at with that. As I mentioned earlier, we're behind the scenes strategizing on what the best procurement timeline is for these projects. These projects are to the tune of $2 to $5 billion, any given one of these. And you can't just put these out on the street and everybody come bid on them. There's only certain players that can bid on these projects, and they can only bid on a certain amount at any given time. So we've got to make sure we package these in the right way so that the market can react. Ultimately, we need these projects built, and we need this industry to build it for us. So we've got to put the right packages out there and make the right decisions now. Take a little bit of time and not put something out and have to back up later, because that's not good for the state's credibility. It's not good for the department, and certainly not good for the industry. So that's what we're doing behind the scenes as it relates to that. We're doing a lot of market outreach to help make these decisions. Talk about express lane transit. That term was really dubbed by our Commissioner Russell McMurray, recognizing that it's hard to expand transit in the region, especially heavy rail transit, because of the cost. But what can you do beyond that is use your express lanes as the backbone for transit expansion or enhancement. So that's really what that term comes from here. This is a slide is animated, so I can't show you what that looks like. But at the end of the day, the ability for express lane transit service providers to expand their service on corridors that they can't or won't expand today because it's too congested. The ability to add new routes that they weren't going to go on before. There's not a lot of routes on 285 because it's not reliable, and transit service needs to be reliable in that regard. So what we found in our express lane projects is we can get reliable trip times for transit service providers, and that ability, combined with us building the express lanes and the transit service providers, and in addition to MARTA, bringing additional services and or facilities for those connections moving forward. So that's really what the vision is for express lane transit, and the ability to expand transit service in the region and what that means for us. I talked about reliable trip times. When we opened Northwest Corridor, we saw right away reduced rush hour periods to the tune of over an hour, probably more than that right now. We had a 3% average increase in express bus boardings. That just shows you that people are getting the reliable trip times and they're willing to take that service because they're getting that reliable trip time. Matter of fact, the express bus had to shift their schedule by about 15 minutes because they were getting there too early. So again, showing the reliable trip times that occur in the express lanes. In addition to express lane reliability, you also are receiving a benefit in the general purpose lanes on that corridor as well. And remember, that's a reversible facility, inbound in the morning, outbound in the afternoon. These are on 285 going to be in each direction. So we believe that benefit's going to be even greater on 285. What does that mean for 400? And why I mentioned that earlier, it does connect 285. Their effort on 400 is still going to move forward with that phase 2 project to bring the areas on 400 for the stations to be built in the future. We've got 4 stations on that corridor, one directly tied into the MARTA station at North Springs, one directly tied into the park and ride facility at Windward, and then you have 2 center stations, one at the mall there and one at Holcomb Bridge Road. We're basically leaving an area for them to build out those future stations. What you see on the screen there is a concept that MARTA put together. It may not look exactly like that, but that's the idea. And again, the state gave a $100 million bond for us to not preclude those BRT efforts moving forward. And Mayor, as I talked about earlier, you're heavily involved in this. The considerations for rapid transit and that connection from 400 all the way down to 285, wrapping around the top end, and eventually all the way around to I-20 on the east and west side with the cab in Cobb County and their vision for transit, and the ability for us to use express lanes as the backbone, and for the local transit service providers to add those stations where they think is best suited, I think is a win-win for everyone. And I'll leave this message with you, is we believe the express lanes are absolutely needed for transit enhancement and BRT improvements in the corridor. And without express lanes, we're really not going to be able to receive that benefit. So, and that partnership that we've had with the local jurisdictions and MARTA and CERTA and Greta and everyone has been very critical for us to achieve this very important goal. So we appreciate what you guys are doing in that coordination effort. With that, that's all the presentation I have. I certainly open it up for any questions, and hopefully I can answer as much as I can. Some things I obviously will not be able to answer.
Okay, I'll start with John. Go down.
Thank you, Tim. First, I want to say thank you for the mass transit part of the conversation early on. Many years ago, it seems like that wasn't mentioned at all. So thank you for the shift, whatever has happened. Thank you. First real question comes to the bridges when it comes to Roberts Drive and Pitts Road. Oh, I'm looking at the timeline. We have a number of citizens that cross those bridges going over to Roswell Road and other places. Are they going to be going out together? You're going to one lane each one? Are you doing both at the same time? I'm going to have people that are worried about those two going out together. Any ideas?
Yeah, the strategy that we were bringing with the original project as a whole, I believe had those projects staged or phased such that they both can't be closed at the same time. And we presented at the PIOH meetings a series of detour during those closures. In other words, you're going to have to use one of the other bridges when one are closed. So the intent there is not to close, it down completely, although it would be a quicker construction period if we did that. But we recognized after coordinating with the fire and police and school services that it probably wasn't the best option because those roads are needed for those purposes. So, I don't know all the details what it is, but that's really the idea of what they're trying to do is move that same concept forward without making any changes, as far as I know right now. Another office is delivering that.
And I show 2023 as the construction starts, so we're still a way off and you're still figuring out all the details, but thank you for making sure that they're both not closed at the same time, or at least we have a number of constituents that always go through those.
Sure.
One of route, if not one, the other. So if I can, let's talk about the new funding aspect of the top end express lanes. I understand that new funding changes you mentioned the Peachtree Industrial Access Point. I've mentioned that in the past. I don't understand why it's not there. So thank you for raising that point. What I'm really worried about is changes in the sense of, you mentioned it, entrances, exits. The latest map that we have publicly available on your website is a number of years old. At what point will we, the citizens, be able to look at a map and really know what you're planning? Because now with this change, it's a hiccup in the sense of, I don't know what to expect. That means my citizens don't know what to expect. When are we going to have a set of drawings and maps that we can rely on?
Well, as a part of the process in this shift in the procurement strategy, bringing a private developer on board earlier to help, because like I said, they're investing their money in this to get paid back by the revenue from the tolls. That's a different model than what we were pursuing. So what we have to do is look at what is necessary to achieve what we're looking for from a value perspective, and allow them to potentially make changes subject to our review and authority. Now, again, they may see a reason to add more access for revenue generation. They may see a need to revise access for conflicts or getting a better value for them. Now, is that a done deal? No, there'll be a process for us to review and understand what that means, because we also went to the public and we also, are very transparent and want to be and need to be, such that, changes can be made, but not on a drastic level. So I'll say that the notion that will you see wholesale changes? I don't think so. But the developer is going to need the opportunity to come in and evaluate the project to make sure that they get the maximum value for themselves, but also get us what we're looking for as far as value is concerned. That's really what they're charged with doing under the parameters of the contract and the provisions that we're going to set forth, and subject to further public review. We're going to go back out to the public and let them know what's going on. So time frame for that, we don't even know when we're going to start the procurement on 285 because of this change. Certainly a priority for us, but we have to understand again what the industry can do from a procurement package perspective, and ultimately moving those projects in a phased approach to hopefully get those answers that you're talking about.
And then related to that would be a project that's then following, which would be the tear down and rebuild of Chambly Dunwoody Road and possibly undercurrent on Shallowford North Peachtree. So that would be the same thing. That would then just be delayed or rebid at some point down the road.
It'll be a part of the bigger project. Again, those bigger projects are going to be subject to phasing as well because they're just too big. And the developer will determine how to best phase that under the purview of the state as far as what we're looking for in those requirements. But we've talked about before that one at Savoy and Cotillion, the only way to have an access point there is to convert those two roads
Right.
To one-way pairs. So the notion is to still continue to access as we know it today until they come in and tell us why it needs to change.
Well, thank you for talking about mass transit. That's making me happy. I wasn't always happy with this project, so this is a nice change to hear more of that aspect. And but that being said, I still want to see detailed maps and drawings as to where the entrances, exits, and how it's directly going to affect our residents. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe?
Hey, Tim, thanks for the update. I know you're doing your job. You're staying in your lane. I've just got to say what I've got to say as well. When I'm reading on the presentation for the rapid transit, which we're talking about bus rapid transit versus the express, it says does not preclude transit. Now, if the governor's office called you today and said, go look at what they did in Colorado on US 36 between Boulder and Denver, and it was a express lanes project with a multimodal project led by Colorado DOT and the Regional Transportation District. And it was about a 20-mile segment. They built express lanes, they built bus rapid transit, they built toll vehicle access, they replaced several bridges, built a commuter bikeway, and they added BRT improvements, installed intelligent system, reporting systems, incident management, and they had the stops as well. So it's a completely integrated project. I work in the software delivery field and I implement projects, and you start with the scope, resources, and time, right? So you're working on that resources now with money and payment. I'm looking at a scope. And who's the executive sponsor? If is the governor's office really the executive sponsor? Can the governor's office say today, include in the scope, build BRT, build the stops, incorporate that, and reach out to the procurement strategy and reach out an RFP to the marketplace to see if some other vendors could come in with a 50-year return on ROI to get into a transit system, and they could fund it themselves also in that funding model. Are they having these type of conversations? Because I know the mayors are working on the north end of that. It's like a bottom up, but are we getting any kind of top down vision to help this type of access?
Well, obviously the work with the mayors on the top end is crucial to understand what the need and desire and the vision is for transit, BRT, bus rapid transit, which is what was adopted by the mayors on top end. That helps us understand what we need to put in front of a developer to react to. That's what I'll say to that point. Will they come in and say, you know what, I can give you this value by adding, these BRT stations for you, with little to no cost from you if you want to bring some money to the table. They could say that. They could say, you know what, if you want me to give you 2 lanes in each direction, barriers separated, and pay for this without you having to pay anything, I can't do the stations. I can only allow access to, in the future, to these BRT stations built by others. So the answer is, it depends on how the industry reacts to what we're asking them to build at a minimum. At a minimum, we need the express lanes. You can't have the BRT without the express lane. So we need to do that. And that's going to be a mandate we put in front of developer. You have to allow transit into the lanes for free, and you need to allow a not to preclude future connection to a future BRT station. That's a minimum. That's going to be in the contract that they have to adhere to. Anything beyond that is going to, it depends on what value proposition comes out of it. If it's a huge negative value proposition that doesn't get us what we need at a minimum, that's something we have to contemplate. And vice versa, if they say, I can give you this high value proposition and give you more if you want to contribute X amount of dollars, that's a value proposition we have to consider. And to answer the other part of the question with regards to the governor, obviously we're under, purview of the governor and the direction all the way down to that level. And our commissioner coordinates with them all the time. So we react to whatever vision comes to us and direction comes to us. Can that happen? Maybe, I don't know. But we react to whatever direction, is handed down to us. But at a minimum, that they have to allow transit in whatever form for free, and the connection has to be there in the future.
Yeah, I think we're failing if we don't incorporate the stops and build it at the same time. The not to preclude, it's out of scope. It's value engineering, and it doesn't happen. And there's this theory of induced demand, and we know that no highway capacity increasing project in the history of this planet has ever solved traffic. I was here when they built the spaghetti junction and whatnot. So on one end of the hand is a no build option with transit only, and let that happen. And we also know that the more access points are worse for the local communities, right? Because 285 was supposed to be a bypass from Atlanta, right? And I wish we had built an outer perimeter 20 years ago, but have access point at I-20, I-20 and 400. That would have been real bypass, right? At 85, 75, et cetera, that would have been perfect for me. Let those truckers go around and not be on 285, please. So I do look forward though, as a driver, to, the swerving and the maneuvering. It's, 285 is one of the worst, most dangerous interstates in the nation, right? The highest death rate that we have. So anything we can do to solve that issue to make it safer for the people that are driving is going to be great. So just want to make sure that, I'm going to be advocating, and obviously for being integrated with the managed lane projects at the BRT Transit is there. Funding. Now let's ask about this one, the new federal infrastructure bill, right? If you don't ask, all they can do is say no, right? So are we kind of, is that in the scope? Is anybody looking at asking for some of those federal funds?
Yes, we are assessing what is. Obviously, it's a big bill, I think over 2,500 pages or whatever it was. And there's a lot of elements to it, subject to requirements for each of the funding buckets is what I'll call it. So we're currently reviewing what those are, what it means for us, what we can gain from that bill right now. We don't know the answer yet, but that's what we're in the process of reviewing.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And thank you, Tim. Hey, appreciate your work. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're good. Artie? Jim?
Tim, thanks for coming out. Appreciate the presentation. Couple comments and a question. Some things in my life have taken me up 75 North a lot, and I've got to say I appreciate the new managed lanes up there, and I'm helping fund those a little bit, doing my little part. So to bring up something that you've heard before from John, but I want to make it explicit. One thing, you've not got now, because you're still, as you go into this, kind of reset process, my take is, you haven't, you're leaving open where these managed lane access points are going to be on these projects a little bit. And I just want to make it explicit that having an access point at Shallowford and not an access point at PIB, I think makes no sense to me whatsoever, given the volume of traffic that shows up at the perimeter at PIB. And, what's going to happen if you don't have that managed lane access at PIB is you're going to create a huge amount of cut through traffic within Dunwoody to get to a managed lane access point at Shallowford. and or I think you're going to get a combination of that and fewer people using it because of the inconvenience of getting there from that PIB corridor. So I just, implore you to make sure that that is looked at very carefully, as to, getting managed lane access from PIB, so that the usage gets maximized of the managed lanes and so that it cuts down on the cut through traffic through Dunwoody. So that's my comments. I do have a side question on the AIP projects. And this is not in Dunwoody, it's on the east side at Covington Highway. Is that going to get rid of those fast lane merges, hopefully, that are on the east side? Is that Covington Highway?
I'm not sure.
That's Stone Mountain Freeway?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's still.
Oh, geez. Can't we get that fixed as part of this project? That's all I've got, sir. Thank you very much for coming out.
Tom?
Yeah, Tim, thanks for the presentation tonight. Jim hit a lot of the points that I was going to try and hammer home too, but I'll add my own little twist to it. The first part I want to talk about is with Petri Industrial. I'm going to start with the non-managed lane improvements that you guys are planning. By the presentation, it looks like they're only in the in the westbound direction. Why is there nothing planned for the eastbound? Because that's another choke point as well. So is it financial? Why is that not being addressed?
Yeah, I think subject to operational improvements, those were the two that were identified as the most important that we were willing to add to the scope of the Express Lane project. Now, remember, the Express Lane project was really just moving, going through that interchange and there's not a connection there, right? So, but we felt like if we didn't solve some of those operational improvement projects, it could jeopardize down the line where you do have entrance and exits into the express lanes could affect those operationally. So those two or one project that corrects those tight curve there on the northwest and the change on the ramp on the east side was the most important and critical for at least adding it to the express lane project. And we pulled it out as an advanced improvement because operationally during construction, management of traffic is going to be challenging there. So we wanted to get that done and out of the way before the big express lane project came in. So that was the reason why. Now, I'm not saying that the whole interchange itself doesn't need to be looked at from an operational improvement perspective, but those two are the reasons, or that was the reason why it was added to the express lane project in the beginning.
Okay, yeah, because in my experience, eastbound is just as bad, if not worse, than the westbound at the exit ramp. So hopefully you guys can look at that as well. And Jim really hit a lot of the points that I was planning to bring up tonight. I know I've already talked to you personally about this, and anytime I get a GDOT person in front of me, I take the opportunity to just hammer home how important it is for the PIB access onto the managed lanes. I just think that's a colossal failure of the first plan. Not only do I think it's failing to address a very large problem, I think it'll make the problem worse because of the weaving on and off situation that it'll create to try and get on at the Shallowford access point. So hopefully I'm both optimistic and cautiously concerned about the new vendor developer program, because hopefully that might create some opportunity where they may recognize this as a generator of revenue for them and get that part in. But I'm also concerned, and I'm hopeful that GDOT has, and I'm sure they do have some sort of safeguards in there, that all of these decisions by the developers will not be revenue generated and that important enhancements will not be removed as because they're not deemed to be profitable enough for them. So hopefully that'll be monitored closely as well. But yeah, I just wanted to take the opportunity to hammer home how important that PIB access to the managed lanes will be. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, if I may, just back to the access question. What's out there is what we're planning to do, what we've brought to the public. The only change that would happen is if the developer comes in and says, here's a value proposition that's good for everyone, and we'll assess that value proposition. Like I said, they want to add more revenue generation for them so they can pay themselves back and make money, right? So if we have fewer access points, that's not good for them. And in particular, If there was one we couldn't afford, like Stone Mountain Freeway and potentially PIB, they may see a huge value proposition to build that and go ahead and pay for that into this project. Again, we won't know the answer to that until they come in. And we don't intend to change any access points unless they tell us there's a real good reason why you need to make a change. And we'll have that conversation as that moves forward.
Artie?
Tim, thanks for coming out. Quick question. I'm assuming, but the new express lanes that are planned with the new Petri approach, are they peach paths, or are they gonna be one occupancy based?
It's Peach Pass.
It's Peach
So
Pass,
you got to pay to get in. The only exception to that is our current policy for express lanes is transit service providers get in for free and registered van pools get in for free. Now, the transit piece is set. That's going to be a policy mandate. We may have to make adjustments on the other part. We don't know yet. It depends on that value proposition. What are we trying to achieve, and what can we not achieve based on that proposition? So we're looking at all those policies right now. Hopefully we can keep everything the same. Certainly transit is we're going to make sure is there for free, but it's Peach Pass, pay to get in. And the customers, just because it's a private developer maintaining and operating the system for a 50-year term, we're going to have policies in place that it makes it look like a CERTA operating the facility from a Peach Pass perspective. So the customer service side of the house, what they see from a transaction perspective is not going to change, even if they're on Northwest Corridor or on 285 or 400 moving forward.
Thank you.
Anybody else before I go? Okay, so I thank you, Tim, for coming out. We really appreciate it. I have a few questions. So one question is that previous to the funding change, I guess that's what you call it, the Chamblee-Dunwoody Bridge was supposed to be advanced improvement project, like John said. So part of that advanced improvement project was also going to be an additional lane on the entrance ramp. So all that is on hold because you need to roll it into the funding, because why?
That project got very complicated
Okay.
once they started the procurement process
Okay.
because it was an AIP project, as you
Right.
suggested, and there's a major utility line on there.
Okay.
And the notion of being able to bring a design build project forward on that and get it done when we want to get it done presented challenges. So we put a hold on that project and said, let's roll it back into the bigger project. That said, there still may be an opportunity, depending on when the bigger project comes forth, to move that forward if there's time to do so. So we can reassess that decision at that time.
Right, but from what I heard from your answer to John, you're pretty committed to the one-waying of Savoy and Cotillion, the circular bridge, and probably the bridge has to come down for design reasons and rebuild, right? Engineering.
I honestly can't remember if we're underneath or over there.
You're
You're
over,
underneath.
the bridge is underneath, right? No, the lanes go
Yeah.
under. Yeah, sorry, I'm not very good at
Yeah,
this
I
part.
mean, the whole reason to put the access point there was because the notion of a BRT station
Right.
adjacent to that. If the
Right.
decision is made to not put a BRT station there, is there really a need for an access point there? So, and therefore wouldn't be a need to change how that Savoy Cotillion works. So,
I don't remember that actually being, we'll have to talk, but I don't remember
maybe
that.
early on.
Maybe
but yeah.
early. I mean, I know that Chamblee would like one at
Mhm.
Shallowford.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, and we don't mind access, we don't mind stations. We're not thrilled about a lot of access points. So originally it was one project and then it was divided, stopping at Dunwoody for the first phase around Dunwoody because you couldn't, the project was deemed to be too large to go out at one time. Do you recall this?
Well, we split top
split
end
it,
into
right,
two
right.
packages. Yeah.
Right, east and west. And so are we still looking at two packages?
We're looking at a range of options subject
Okay.
to what the industry can react to.
Okay.
So,
And then, because that impacts the work the mayors are doing, I know you know that, on top in terms of transit and stations and all that. The one thing I want to make sure is that we have the access we need in Perimeter Center. That's really important of everything for us. That's really critical. And I realize the state probably realizes that too, because it houses the most commercial office space in the Southeast. And so Perimeter Center is really important. So one of the projects we have on hold because of this project is Sidewalks on Cotillion, which is the road leading up to, so I presume that just has to stay on hold until we get further along.
Probably, yes.
Okay. Yeah. And then I want to make sure I understood something you said earlier, which is a 400 project, which was up to Forsyth, is on hold but not canceled to McGinnis Ferry because of issues with procurement, correct-ish?
Well, the previous procurement, we went through the process.
Right.
We had proposals come in and bids come in. There were 3 original proposers.
Mhm.
One refused. They backed out at literally a week before they were due, said they didn't want to participate. 2 submitted proposals and a bid. 1 didn't meet the minimum qualifications. 1 made it through the process. And ultimately, the bid that we received just was not sustainable from a state budget perspective. So
Gotcha.
we canceled that procurement and did not award the project and are going to reprocure, looking at a new strategy on what's best suited to move that project forward.
And you don't have a timeline for that yet?
That's a part of the decisions we're trying to make behind the
Okay.
scenes right now.
So that means though that what you said was, is that so from our residents' perspectives, the uncertainty of this project can be challenging. And it seems to me that the uncertainty is now pushed further back. Like I think the Chamblee-Dunwoody Bridge project was originally supposed to start in 22, if I'm not, in the advanced projects. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, and so we pushed that off. Is everything pushed off years at this point, or we just don't know?
We don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, we're making this change to get what we need for
Right.
the whole, right?
Right.
And to get more value with hopefully little to no subsidy
Right.
from the state. That's really what we're trying to achieve. And also to accommodate the transit service enhancements and BRT on the corridor. The reason 400 is going to move forward first is because it's ready to go. The environmental approved. Top End is in a good place because we're not making significant scope changes because it's already 2 lanes in each direction. So the ability to move that project forward and not have to delay 3, 4, 5 years is out there. We can move it forward quicker. The east and west, they're going to get shoved out. I don't know how much because of the added lane and added impact. So we're behind the scenes right now, listening to industry, looking at packages, looking at procurement types. There's lots of different ways you can procure this from a package perspective. And we're doing that because we want to make a good decision now and not make a decision, go to the industry and have to back up, as I talked about earlier. So are they going to be delayed some versus the previous schedule? Yes. How much? We're assessing that right now to hopefully minimize that delay impact.
And this may not be a fair question, but can you give us an estimate on time? Like when you think you'll have an answer, or you can't even do that? Like when you can say with certainty that the bids are going out or procurements? Okay. All right. So we talked about BRT. The mayor's also talked about trails. And we've been working with GDOT at least a little bit to make sure that we can have access to space when possible and perhaps maybe even share some concrete. Will the private developer be given the same kind of instructions that we would have had if it was y'all managing the project?
To the extent possible, yes.
Okay.
I think, and that's why I said at the mayor's meeting
Right.
on the transit is keep doing the work you're doing.
Right.
So we can put as much information in front of the developer to
Right.
react to.
Right.
Commissioner said this, we consider these corridors the multimodal
Right.
type of facilities, which includes, those types of facilities you're talking about there. And for the ability for us to put that in front of a developer to say, we want you to, react to this, tell me what the value proposition is, can it be done? Hopefully there's an opportunity for it to be done.
And
as
we're
well.
doing, I think I don't know where we are in the stage. We're doing the design right now, I think. We have a lot going on. All right, so I want to thank you for the noise walls going up behind the Georgetown pool. That's much appreciated. And actually exactly when promised, which I bet you don't hear very often. But we had somebody from the 400 project, which name I can't remember. Yeah, Marla. Speak to us a few weeks ago, and we raised what I think is a very important question and didn't get a great answer, which is the signage or lack thereof. And, it's not in Dunwoody, but I'm certain that we advocated harder than Sandy Springs through Michael and through myself to get better signage. It is totally confusing for people when they're going up and you have to get off way early for Roswell Road. And then you have 3 ways to go, and it's really confusing for people. Jim's gonna,
Throw in a comment real
Right.
quick. So coming back from Thanksgiving on Saturday, exiting Chamblee Dunwoody eastbound,
right,
there is a big line of cars that are exiting, turning left and getting right back
Yeah.
on 285
Yeah.
westbound. They have missed the Ashford Dunwoody
Right.
exit to get to the mall and are turning around
Right.
on Chamblee Dunwoody to get back. And this speaks to the signage
right.
issue that the mayor is telling you about. Sorry, Linda.
No, that's
interrupt, but I
fine. No,
wanted to-
but that's a good example. And so these are bazillion-dollar project. I won't even use billions. And the fact that Marla said you couldn't do better signage until the project is final is inexcusable. And so I'd like to see that fixed, but when it comes to our turn, we expect better. It is ridiculous for a project that costs billions of dollars, just not to have good signage. Plus, it's really mucking up traffic, which, in the long run, we're trying to improve traffic, and maybe when it's finished, it'll all work out. But at this point, it's not giving anybody confidence. So if we could just work on that and maybe work on, and not only that, where they paint it on the road where you get off at Roswell or Buckhead South, it's fading on the ground. So the paint isn't staying. All right. So that's just my comment. And then I think that might have been it. We talked about sidewalks on Cotillion. Yeah. So for us, for the residents of Dunwoody, because I continue to not sure how this project's going to benefit us, except for BRT, which is in the past, being able to put sidewalks where people actually walk, which is Cotillion. So if there's a point in the design that where certain things are going to happen, and you can call Michael and say, guess what? We don't need all that right away. Oh, the condos. You never got an answer on that either, did you? On the right away for the condos? Yeah, so there's in the current design, there's a condo building, and we were expecting an answer in May 2020. Is that right, Jim? Right. And so I'm guessing you have put everything on hold in
Yeah,
terms of
I'm
right
not-
away acquisition.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've held off on that or if they're still, I can
Okay.
follow up and.
Yeah,
find
it
out.
would be, not that anybody's reached out to us in a while, so, but
Yeah.
you paused it.
We're still buying right away.
You did,
but
you
at
bought those
strategic areas.
townhomes, you bought the neighborhood. That's gone. The people are out, I think. So, all right, well, thank you. Anybody have anything else? We appreciate your time, Tim. You give a tremendous amount of time outside of regular office hours to this position, and we are grateful. And you will keep us or Michael up to date. Will there be new public impact meetings?
We're gonna have to go back out to the public to
Okay.
let them know what these changes look like and what it means. Yes.
And will one of them be here?
Probably, yes.
Okay, if you'll just keep us up to date, please. We'd be glad to host.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Okay, I'm going to do my monthly report. In the police department, we had Sergeant Sanders and Lieutenant Krieg and other North Metro SWAT team members were recognized by the 300 Club of Atlanta for their response to the SWAT call out of the wanted person who shot a responding officer in Sandy Springs. So wanted to congratulate those guys for quickly solving that problem there. Also, we have the SWAT group has also been busy with a search warrant on a home invasion crew that was responsible for over 20 home invasions in Sandy Springs and Atlanta. And as y'all know, we have a joint SWAT, with the surrounding cities here, which several of our officers are part of. The other part I want to point out are the license plate reader portions within the workload and activities portion of the report, and how good that service helps the police department through their job. A lot of stuff when you'll have time to go through, please read that and take a look at all the different items. The Public Works Department, Peeler Road sidewalk, the final paving there has been complete. Spalding and Chamblee Dunwoody intersection continues there. We're having to change the stormwater pipe installation and work around some City of Atlanta water lines, major water lines that run through that part of Sandy Springs, right? Because that project, of course, is right on the line of Dunwoody and Sandy Springs. Mount Vernon Place sidewalks, the sidewalk and paving have been completed. We're doing punch list items or finalizing the punch list items now. Georgetown Gateway project is underway with utility work, and also the Winters Chapel Trail Phase 1 site clearing for utility relocation started back in October, and that part is nearing completion for that utility phase. The stormwater staff, that's always a busy piece, and I know y'all get several emails about stormwater, but they've responded to 119 service requests year to date, which is the second highest number in the last 10 years. So, I don't like droughts, but we have the drought. Of course, there's fewer stormwater calls, and we've had a very wet season historically for this year. So we've had a lot of stormwater calls that we're very responsive to, but at the same rate, with us being as urbanized as we are, stormwater is a major issue for the city to contend with. Also, we have the maintenance crews completed 49 stormwater work orders and 6 street repairs and 11 traffic signal repairs since the last reporting period. In our Parks Department, December 1st is the holiday lighting ceremony. We also have the new sod and fencing has been installed at the former Austin School site, which is now our park, of course. And then the Brook Run Pavilion rentals are full. Every weekend is booked through the end of December. So that's, here again, great job on council having the vision over the years to put in these parks. And of course, tonight we had a citizen asking for more. So the demand is obviously there for these services and being well utilized. Community development, zoning board of appeals. I just want to point those items out in the planning commission dates of items that are coming up in between November and then January, the end of January. Major projects also, the department completed 538 building inspections. Also, the public supermarket down the street is in the final phase of construction. The department is also working with the Dunwoody Village Townhomes to close out the project by conducting inspections on infrastructure, landscaping, and curb and gutter on that project. And here again, that's been a very successful project, slow moving, but a successful project and a nice addition to that area of the city. As I slide through the report under economic development, the Dunwoody Village, the renovations in the courtyard of Dunwoody Village are underway to coincide with the opening of the barn. Many of y'all went to the opening of that earlier in the month. And also the renovations for Ashford Lane, which is formerly Perimeter Place, are underway with the multiple new restaurants being announced, including Superia, Brown Bag, Seafood Company, and Sweet Green. So a lot of activity on the economic side within the city as well. Internally, IT department is finalizing the migration to the cloud for email and Barracuda. All users have migrated, and the department is working on restoring all the mailboxes. So that's what's happening within that department. Marketing, we have the ribbon cutting on December the 15th for the Peeler Road sidewalk. We also have in the finance department, the proposed 2022 operating and capital budgets passed through the final adoption. Of course, that's a big milestone for the department. And also the monthly financial report for October of 2021 can be found within this document. There's a link within the document that you can go to see the financial report, which as y'all know, the financial report is part of this monthly report, but it always has a link to get there. The other thing that was new for this year is the department continues to work on building a risk management program that extends to all the departments within the city to mitigate future risk. So that's something that I just wanted to point out as we come to a close on this year. But with that, the report is about 17 pages, I believe. So read at your leisure, and I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
I have one question on license plate readers. Is it, when they read the license plate, is it statewide or nationwide?
Well, the numbers in there are nationwide numbers, so they have to verify that it's the proper state. In other words, if it's a conflicting number, it would still tag that vehicle, but then we have to verify.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. I like the standardization of it. I sent you the email. I like to see future activities. So just like to make sure, you know, that what's going on with the community so that the folks out there in the community know what's of impact to them. And I appreciate just having that clarity here. Cutting edge firewood. I noticed you've removed a bunch of signs. I'll just kind of go there.
Right.
Put you maybe on the spot or whatever. Are we, you know, any word on those guys? Because it's so obnoxious. I hate to go there.
Yeah, and there've been a few of those signs that have popped up, a few being, have popped up. And I know that Richard and his folks are on top of those signs and contacting the source of those to tell them, hey, look, you can't have those throughout the city. And we have a few of there's some dating signs, some other things that have popped up, and we are on top of those. But at the same rate, they almost go up as quick as we can take them down.
John, anything? No? Anybody? There's one thing that I think is kind of a typo based on my conversation with Richard today, which is on the upcoming, it's really so small, but I think there's a December planning commission where a couple of those things are actually going to be held. Unless I misunderstood Richard today.
Yeah. Richard's coming up.
The Ravinia property is December, right? Okay, it doesn't really matter, but for council's knowledge, because we're reacting to it today, there is a planning commission meeting in December, correct?
There's two
Okay.
cases on there.
Right, and so 2 of the 3 cases listed for January are actually in December, just so people know.
Thank you for pointing that out. We'll make that correction in the
Thank you.
document.
Thank
We
you.
post it.
All right, well, thank you for this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, consent agenda. You ready, Sharon, for me to keep going? Okay. Consent agenda is, I want to just recognize that we are voting on the consent agenda to reappoint Tony Torbert to the Audit Committee and Jim Kramer, Bob Lavender, and Mary Michael to the Art Commission. They were appointed a little bit less than a year ago for a 1-year term in order to stagger the terms. And so they all agreed to serve a 3-year term. And then Robin Files to the Urban Redevelopment Authority. Anybody have any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
And Madam Mayor, did we also have the new item?
No,
is
that's
under
going to be a
consent?
discussion item
Okay.
because it wasn't on
Thank
the
you.
agenda.
Appreciate it.
Anybody have any questions or comments on consent?
Move to approve.
Moved by Stacy. Second by Artie. Moved by Stacy, second by Artie. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Mayor, moving to the second read of the ordinance to impose license fees on insurers conducting business within the city of Dunwoody, Georgia, to impose a gross premium tax on insurers operating within the state of Georgia, to provide an effective date to repeal conflicting ordinances and other purposes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Currently, the city charges a flat fee to insurance companies of $100. Based on the 2020 census, we've crossed a threshold now where our population is over 50,000, so we can charge $150 flat fee. This agenda item is asking for your approval to make this effective January 1st of 2022. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by John, second by Joe. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
The next item, not item number 13 under business items, is contract approval for the Brookbend Park Lighting Project with Georgia Power. Brent Walker.
Evening, Mayor and Council. As many of you know, we are dealing with some aged infrastructure that was left over from the hospital out at Brookbend Park, and also there are areas that were not lit when DeKalb built the playground and skate park in the early 2000s. This has been more apparent as we develop phase 1 construction of the amphitheater and multi-use fields where we've added the additional lighting in that new construction area. So based on that and some discussion I've had with council over the past year, I reached out to Georgia Power to do a photometric design for Brook Run and to give us some cost estimates based on what that new lighting plan would be. It's broken into 2 phases. Phase 2 would be the skate park and playground area, and then also the all existing roadways within the park that were not lit as part of the phase 1 construction. The phase 3 would actually be the remainder of the Dunwoody Trailway within Brook Run. It does not include the section that goes to Pernalshaw Park, but primarily the loop inside of the Brook Run proper. With that, they gave me cost estimates for each phase 2 and phase 3. There's 96 poles in phase 2, some of them being overhead 30-foot poles for parking lot lighting, and the others are the pedestrian lights that are the exact same light for pedestrians that are in the amphitheater with the acorn tops. And then a cost breakdown based on the amount we would put down initially. And that is indicative of both phase 2 and 3. And they actually come out to about the same cost per pole for phase 2 and 3 when you break the numbers down. So I'm looking for guidance tonight from council of how y'all would like to proceed with lighting plan from Brook Run, and also to determine if y'all would prefer us to do a zero down option or a certain amount of funds down to reduce that monthly cost.
Can I just ask a quick question first? This is phase 2 and phase 3. Was there a phase 1?
Phase 1 was part of the phase 1 construction plan when we did
Okay,
the
okay.
multi-use fields.
All
That's
right.
how Georgia Power broke it down.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood. All right, John.
I'm as confused as I think you are, Lynn. Phase 2, phase 3, what are we looking at here, Brent? Which one, are we looking to do both? Are we looking to do just phase 2 this time? Are we looking, I see prices for both separately. I'm not sure what
And
you're
that's
asking.
part of getting direction from council tonight to see where y'all feel comfortable moving forward. My suggestion would be phase 2 now. That seems to be the most needed areas that need to be lit. And financially, I have money within the operating budget that could put $200,000 down towards that project in this year's budget. Phase 3, my suggestion would be for us to look at some potential other lighting options for that. I don't know that it's necessary to put in the tall 12-foot poles along the multi-use trail that match. There may be some other options, bollard lighting, things like that for phase 3.
Okay.
That may be a cheaper option down the road, but certainly phase 2 is something that's.
I mean, phase 2 to me looks like mostly the roads and then a little bit of the playground area. Phase 3 is the trail. And so I would think phase 2 is more important to a certain extent.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked us. I had the same concern.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what you're looking to do.
And if I could explain a little bit as well, to add to what Brent's saying. Yeah, you're right, Councilman, which is the phase 2. You know, we want to, of course, do phase 2. Phase 3, I wouldn't not do 2 and then do 3. 2 is the most important. It's the next phase along. 3 you can always do later. And what we're looking at, the way Georgia Power does the pricing, if you're on that memo page, what's that one document? You have the
Yeah,
document.
we
that
have
has
it
the
in front of
prices.
us.
Right, the letter, and it just gives you different options.
Capital 12 letter?
They always do that in terms of the way you can put more money, you pay now or pay later, or you pay in advance. And that's just one of the options. And I think what Brent's suggesting is based on the amount of money he has in his budget currently. But then, of course, your monthly total is higher. You can see that $78.24 per month for those additional lights in that area. This is something, though, that I think that the public has talked about quite a bit as far as the amount of lighting in the areas afterwards. This would you'd get the most bang for your buck in this area here. The trail you can always do later. My recommendation would be to do phase 2 now at that. And Brent, you're suggesting the 200K down, right? Not the 220.
Yes, and there's not much of a difference in monthly margin between zero down and $200,000 down. So that would be a question I would ask of council, what direction y'all would want to go. But I do have $200,000 available in this year's operating budget if y'all chose to go that direction.
Yep. And that's a lot of months. I mean, if you do 200 down, it's $100, basically $100 difference per month. So it's a long play. So
No, it's more than, no, it's 500.
Is it 500?
It's
$1,000.
16 and a half year
I'm sorry,
payback.
I don't know.
You did the
Thank
math?
you, Mayor.
I
So can you
did the
do the
math.
math? Just because, can you do the math between doing the 401 down?
Absolutely. So
I
that
have
was
a-
going to be, I called Brent and I just wanted to confirm, first of all, that these prices, these monthly fees are locked in as long as we
Forever,
maintain the contract,
right.
and they are, and it wasn't something that was going to go up and up. So looking at it, to be honest with you, in my opinion, there's no value in putting $200,000 down because it's almost a 17-year payback to do that. For the minimal thing we get back, to put an extra $200,000 or $201,000 down now, the payback is basically 5 years. So it would cost us $93,000 a year for 200,000 down, only $27,000 a year.
So sorry to interrupt. Can I say things? So I think, and Jay and Eric can clarify, and that I believe if the rules ever come out, that lighting for a public safety perspective is going to be an approved use of the ARP money. And to me, I know that you want to maybe yell at me for bringing it up, but this is actually a perfect use. I know we're very disjointed because I know we're very disjointed because we don't have a plan for this money, but we also have some money sitting in cares that maybe I've spent 1,000 times, maybe I'm not really sure, but it seems to me that we don't have to take from parks to add that $200,000. We have a couple of sources of money, perhaps.
If I can say, so first, you're correct in that. And the other thing on
Right.
ARP is we do have years to work on it. So
Right, I know
planning it
that.
out is appropriate.
But-
Let us go back and we can come back to the next council meeting and
Okay.
sort through alternatives. on
Okay,
this.
just because I would rather use federal money that comes with rules and strings for something that clearly meets the rules. Because I know a lot of cities are talking about doing lots of lighting from a public safety perspective with this money. And so if we could save parks money, you maybe use their 200 and put in 200 from the federal money or something so that we get the lighting. And then if we feel like the phase 3 is important, maybe not this specific plan, but different kind of light fixtures or something, we should be looking at that. But I realize we need a plan and we're going to do that after the first of the year. So go ahead. No, Tom, sorry.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too, because when I crunch all these numbers out, obviously the 400,000 is a big difference. In year 15, we still haven't recovered, but we're $776,000 ahead with the extra $200,000 down.
Right,
So
okay,
it makes a lot of sense. But the phase 3, the pricing wasn't nearly as advantageous to us, putting more money down up front. And I couldn't understand why, because it's less fixtures. I don't know if it's because it's the back portion of the trail and there's other expenses that aren't as readily, obvious. But I don't know if there's any advantage if we're considering doing the 2 phases at the same time, lumping it in and getting a better price with Georgia Power. I don't know if that's something, but I found it interesting when I started crunching these numbers that phase 3 was not nearly as advantageous to us putting up as much of a upfront money down payment as it was for phase 2. So
And it appears that our representative was trying to lock in like a unit price because they're roughly the same unit price depending on what you put down. For example, if you put 0 down in either option, it's about $92 a pole per month. So it sounds like that's the direction they tried to finance it in. It's just per pole cost depending on what the down payment was.
This is great. I've always been a proponent of trail lighting, of course, as well. I just Googled the Swamp Rabbit Trail in Greenville. I noticed they're putting in some new lighting. They extended a part of their trail. Yeah, they have the bollard one, the lower for the lower use areas where just people need that navigation. Think of the back end connecting back to Pernishall versus the pole lighting that is employed in high use areas. So I guess that would be great to show the different mix. And on the infrastructure bill, those buzzwords that people are looking for are equity, community building, and resilience. So if we could connect over to North Shelford, showing that equity kind of portion through there, that's a good one. And then what are the other options? What does Path 400 do? I've been on that. That's lit. How how did they get that funding and where did they go for? Do they go through Georgia Power? Does the belt line go through Georgia Power? So basically I rode that newer Path 400. I went over from Lennox Road and I rode it all the way back into over by Lindbergh. And mostly it's bollard type lighting, but I'd be curious to see, right? It's like, how are other folks doing it? Right? Are they going the way we're going through Georgia Power, or are there other sources as well to find that? But I wholeheartedly support, what we're doing for lighting. Absolutely. But I love to see other mixes. Is solar, what are the other options out there potentially as well? Thanks.
Okay, so this was an action item, so I think we need to defer it. So if I could get a motion, and I'm gonna give you till after the first of the year unless that doesn't work for contract reasons.
Oh, the only thing would be the dollars are available in this year's operating budget, out of MOG. Really fun.
We can
Unless
encumber it.
Encumber it this year, that would be good.
Right, so is it better January? Gives us time.
It makes no difference. We can get that. It's better timing wise for the federal funding to wait. But if you just want to just defer it to a future date, because it's not a public hearing. or
Right,
anything.
so just defer it to, and if you're ready in December and there's room on the agenda, you can bring it back. All right, so I need a motion to defer to a time in the future.
Move to defer to a future time to be determined.
Okay,
Second,
moved by Joe, second by Jim. Any further discussion?
I have a quick comment.
Okay,
This is something I bring up whenever we talk site lighting. I feel strongly about not putting in daylight, color, temperature, outdoor lighting. And, Richard is shaking his head yes, because I've harangued him on this, especially in the village and places like this. I think anywhere in residential Dunwoody, outside of perimeter center, we need to be using lower color temperature, 3000 degree K or less, because it's a more residential, homier, better for your diurnal cycles lighting color. And I just encourage y'all to remember that as these site lighting questions come up.
and we're gonna make sure light pollute, like because there are homes along that area, that it's gonna be appropriate and not shine into someone's front window, right? Okay, thank you, thank you. Anybody else, questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor of the deferral, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that carries.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item number 14 is authorization to enter into electrical vehicle post installation and operations contracts. Jay Vanicki.
Good evening. We brought this agenda item to you as a discussion item back in October. Georgia Power has received funding through the Public Service Commission to install electrical vehicle posts through cities and the like. So they came and approached us. So it's got us to review all of our existing facilities, and staff came up with a recommendation which was brought to you to do two different things. The first one is to install posts, additional ones at Brook Run Park, install some at City Hall, and install some at Kernershaw Park. The second thing we'd like to do is switch the operational vendor we use to accompany EnviroSpark for reasons of locality and response time and the like. Feedback from council, we got back and kind of circled the wagons and talked with each other on it. And we've discussed three things about it we'd like to mention and about changing it, and then ask again for authorization to enter all these contracts. The first one we've discussed with the police department about putting them on the positions at the south side of the building, and that's acceptable. Even though there are cars there, they'll get moved out as officer positions get filled. And for us, logistically, it is the best place to put it on this grounds. The second one is we worked at the library, and the map in your packet shows we moved the sites off the curb. There's one that's preferred and one that's optional. Both are just basically more in. The preferred one is a little bit closer to the back of it, but they're both equidistant from the door, basically, or pretty close to it. And then the third one, we also looked at putting posts across the street from Kernershaw Park where we might have access to the parking. After a lot of discussion internally, that will produce a lot of problems contractually because we don't own the site. And therefore, we just recommend keep it at Kernershaw. The only bad part about that is we're going to have posts there that will be labeled EV optional just because parking is very limited, but it's one of those things we know we're going to have to do with that. So with that, I'll entertain any questions and ask for motion for authorization.
Anybody have questions? John?
I just wanted to make sure that when you said the police south side, that the vision on our packet is still the same.
Yes,
Okay, it's not, it's along the street side. It's not along the building.
correct. It's the ones that are just right out there.
Just what you said, I wasn't sure what you were saying. So thank you.
Anybody else? So with Pernishaw, where the parking when it's busy, which is a lot of the time, is really tight, it's going to be EV optional. It's going to be clear that because at Brook Run, people respect those spots. The park can be full and those 2 spots can be empty. All right. Any further questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Jim, second by Artie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
The next item is number 15, approval of a contract with Blunt Construction for stormwater improvements. Michael Smith.
This item is to upgrade an existing pipe that we're tying into for the Spalding Shamley Dunwoody project. During the course of construction, we discovered that the pipe, that the new pipe that we're putting in for the intersection connects to a pipe that is undersized for the amount of drainage that's going to be coming through there. So since this was outside the contractor's original scope that's working on the intersection project, and they really probably don't have the capacity to do this right now, we did get a quote from them, but we reached out to several other contractors, including one of our on-call stormwater contractors, about replacing and increasing the size of this existing pipe. And we got 3 quotes, and the lowest quote was from Blunt Construction for $58,480. And so we're recommending that we award them a contract to be paid for out of the stormwater fund to replace this pipe. And we put this on as a business item because of we're trying to get this installed as quickly as possible because we've got some utility conflicts in the area, and we need to install this pipe so that Atlanta Gas Light can move some of their lines. And then we have a second phase of this that we'll have to come back and do that actually goes under Spalding Drive. So our recommendation is to award a contract to Blunt for $58,408 plus a 10% contingency.
John?
Thank you, Michael. I think you may have just answered my question. I'm looking at 2 different pages. On page 19, I'm seeing that those pipes go outside the city of Dunwoody and into Sandy Springs, 24-inch pipes. Looks like a dual system. And then on page 22, it goes back into Dunwoody. I'm seeing a lot of information on page 22 where it's actually done in Dunwoody. Is the project that we're doing on this term in the city of Dunwoody is in Sandy Springs? Does it matter? Explain that aspect of it. I mean, I know our project on Spalding was is in the city of Dunwoody. There's a small little loop that looks like it goes into Sandy Springs. I'm just trying to understand where is the project and how are we paying for it if it is in Sandy Springs?
Yes, the tail end of the project does go into Sandy Springs. Where all the water runs to, the low point of the project is a pipe that goes under Spalding Drive in Sandy Springs. The pipe that's being replaced in this contract starts in the right of way of Spalding, which is in Sandy Springs, and it ends in a backyard of a Dunwoody resident. So it's right there on the line. When we go back to do the second phase of this, which is under Spalding Drive, that pipe is in Sandy Springs, sorry, because that's where all the water for our project drains to.
Okay, thank you. You've answered my question.
Okay, any other, Joe?
And just from the budget funding, what is our balance? Is this, projected? Are we okay with the?
Yeah, we
forecasted?
have a healthy reserve in the stormwater fund.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody?
Just a quick comment. I think I said this to a couple of you, but I just want everybody to hear it. This is classic conditions found that weren't expected during, during design, appear during construction, and you deal with the problem. And this is why you have contingencies. This is why you have budget reserves, and we're well dealing with the problem, but these things pop up, and it's just, you don't want them to come up, but they do sometimes. And, the fact that we're ready to roll with it is, speaks well.
So this will be on my desk to sign.
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by John, second by Artie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you all.
Item number 16 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the opioid settlement national class action lawsuit. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the resolution that will need to be signed by the city manager. You were briefed in the last session about the nature of the settlement, basically for the public's consumption. What we're going to get out of it is basically enough money to pay for our Narcan and our drug dogs. We'll
That's the
get
dog
that.
food.
We will get that for a drug
Just
dog.
the dog
But
food.
by the time we get finished getting paid for it, we may have more than one, because it's over 10 years before the payout's finished. It's a long-term payout.
Any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
Moved by Joe. Second by John. And just to be clear, in case anyone's listening at home, this is not going to be a lot of money. It's going to have very specific uses related to the opioid crisis. So the city is not going to find a lot of money in this. All right.
Mayor, but that being said, the city manager report had a number of opioid
Yes,
items
absolutely.
on it. Narcan was used, and Narcan is available. If you have
Yes.
teenagers in the house, or just, you can buy Narcan at
Yes.
any CVS and have it in the house in case, not your kids, but somebody else. Just might be something, it's prevalent, and the use of drugs is concerning, so.
Yes,
Just FYI,
absolutely.
just wanna
Very
make sure
good and
that's-
very true. And we do incur cost, not minimizing the costs we incur, but minimizing perhaps the settlement we're going to receive. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. Okay, Ginger. Come on up. This is for the hosted phone solution.
Hello.
Hello.
I guess I should take my own advice and point it at my face this time.
Right, right.
So today what I have for you guys is a request for contract signing for a new Voip hosted phone system. So currently we have a very outdated Cisco phone system that comes in. In order to access it, you have to be on site or use VPN. This new system would give us the ability to do it in the cloud, hosted in the cloud, which, one of our goals is accessibility for our users. And this would make it to where our users could access it as long as they have an internet connection or a phone. So if something were to happen and their internet went down, there is an alternate option where you can use your mobile device and your mobile internet connection. We started out with 9 vendors. We narrowed it down to this one because it met all of our technical requests. It is a very solid solution. And actually the money ended up being really right. Actually, it was a lot less than what I was expecting, if I'm being honest. So for the 3 years, it's $107,000. We'll be able to get rid of the current phone lines. So it will help kind of equalize that cost a lot. And so my recommendation would be to go with Forerunner Technology Solution.
Okay, questions? Go ahead, John.
Contingency, what's the backup? Is it a more secure system in the sense of police services, things of that nature? Is there any copper lines in the building? Is there any, what's the redundancy aspect?
So they do have the option to add old school cabling for the phone system, but because of the way that they do it with the internet and the mobile phone system, and us using FirstNet, and it kind of makes it to where we already have a backup in place. This phone solution also did a really good job with when they do updates and things like that, they have multiple places where their servers are located. So you never actually have an outage. They just swap back and forth. So they have a lot of redundancy built into the system itself.
Okay, that's my only real concern, and it's all, if you're satisfied, I'm satisfied, so thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
Hey, Ginger, a couple things. Do you ask for references? Are any other local municipalities using their service?
Yes, I don't actually have the references right in front of me, but I did reach out to the references and they were all very satisfied with the service that they've gotten with Forerunner and with the phone solution, Univerge Blue, I think.
They're in the region. Are they in the metro Atlanta region?
They do have some local, and they have some that are similarly sized, but I don't have in front of me the exact companies. So I'll bring that back next time.
If you add that to that's a great, just, check in the box. And then, no, we can't do a cost comparison apples to apples because we're talking about changing out some infrastructure. This is a 3-year term.
That is correct.
And includes the initial
Mhm.
setup plus just service, correct?
That's correct, yes.
That flat fee not to exceed 107K. Generally, do you have a number of what our phone bills would have been if we don't change over a 3-year term?
Actually, they would have been similar, but the big difference is we would have had to have incurred costs because we're at a point where our local servers are no longer usable. And we were going to have to upgrade all of our hardware. So we would have incurred a pretty big cost right now in order to do that.
For our existing phone service?
For our current
lines?
phone, yes, because we currently use Cisco on-prem. And so all of those servers, we have a host server and, but we would have had to have upgraded all of that because it was all at end of life.
And now I'll just ask a little more wonky. So my day job, we use, I don't know, it's Microsoft Teams. And I happen to have I have a headset that plugs into my phone, my laptop, right? Is that kind of how it's going to work?
So this one has multiple options. It does have a soft phone option. So people would be able to use their laptops. It has an app on your phone. You could use your app on your phone. And it also has the regular phones for the people that are used to the regular desk sets. So it has multiple different options for everyone.
So I'm just thinking eventually, because new hires, et cetera, don't even use a phone anymore.
Right. They
Right.
don't have to.
So maybe eventually we can just phase out that hardware expense altogether and you just get a headset, plug in with your laptop, or guess what? It is an app on the phone as well.
That's true.
Right.
Yes.
So I'd like to, just hopefully we can just kind of eventually phase out and here's your headset.
And
and-
another positive about this one is that the phone systems are free for the 3 years of the contract. So every hard device, hard phone system that we get is free to us right now.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Consent. Is everybody okay with consent? Joe, if she gets you those references ahead of time. Yeah, consent. Okay, consent. Jim has a question though. I'm sorry.
So I'm just curious, are we using any old school trunking now? I mean, are we on a PRI that attaches to the server or?
So I believe we're on SIP right this second.
We're
but we-
we're already on IP.
Yes, but we
so
do
there's
have to
gotta-
pay, it might be here, because we do have to pay the trunking lines. I'm not 100% sure what our service is, but I do know we are paying for the phones right this second, the lines. I'll have to check.
I'm just
and I
wondering
will
if there's
get back to you.
is there a difference in, is there a potential difference in call quality, or, that we're going to pure IP phones and are the speeds on our internet connection such that that's just a non-issue these days?
I will get back to you with.
Once
the
upon a time, that was a
confirmation.
real issue, but that may have been in the olden days when, people's internet connections were not what they are today.
Okay, I will get back to you and let you know for sure.
Anybody else? Okay, consent. Thank you, Ginger.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Pub-
the final item
All right.
for
I forgot the one up
consideration
at
was
home.
added to the agenda. It's a resolution
Yes.
to appoint a member of the Dunwoody Planning Commission.
And I skipped that. That's on me because I actually added it. All right. So this morning we were notified that a member of our planning commission has moved to Florida. And I had spoken to him earlier this year and he had agreed to a second term and except he was going to move to Florida in a few years. So he accelerated. That put us at 5 members of the Planning Commission. And we were worried about the December meeting. And so Mr. Mahmoub, if you look through his application, has served on a zoning board in Louisiana. He is actually a member of our Citizens Patrol. He's actually patrolling tonight. He's the youngest member, I believe, right, John, of our Citizens Patrol. He's very eager to be involved in the city. And he had filed an application a year or two ago, and he has agreed to begin his term immediately so that we can be guaranteed a quorum for these 2 zoning meetings. The next Planning Commission meeting. It has 2 hearings. So I'll take any questions. All right.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Mr. Ali Mabad to a 3-year term to the Dunwoody Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
District 1. He's from District 1. That was moved by John, second by Stacy. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could make a request of the city clerk, I don't see this on the current agenda in the sense on the website. So if we could get their website updated with all this documentation that is currently in front of city council to make our decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Public comment? I don't see any. Right. Eric, city manager comments?
Yes, ma'am. We do need an executive session for litigation / legal.
Okay. All right. Litigation. Okay. Council comments. I'll start with Tom. Anything? Jim? Artie? Stacy? Joe?
Give me an inch, I'll take a mile.
Right.
I'd like to invite the public, just look me up on Facebook. I'm having a 10-year cancer-free celebration at the Dunwoody Nature Center this Sunday. It's called S'mores and More. Fundraiser for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society as well, off asking $25 contribution. It's at night, but we're having Jimmy Economos, the announcer DJ, is going to be DJing there. I'm going to have a couple fire pits, just hang out, BYO, and have fun. It's from 5:30 to 9 at the Nature Center. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Rainer, well, just dress appropriately.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. John?
No, except for congratulations, Joe, for being 10 years cancer-free. I've only been cancer-free for maybe 1.5 years because of skin cancer. So get your skin checked, everybody.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I wanted to talk a bit about reapportionment. As I understand it, it's home rule. The legislature is not involved, correct, Bill?
You can do it by home rule, and they're more restrictive under home rule as I previously outlined to you.
Right.
Need to try to keep the districts the way they are as much as you can, use natural, logical boundaries, preferably center lines of streets, but yes.
And it's our understanding the legislature is not going to take up municipal reapportionment this year, correct?
I don't believe they would, and I don't think we can even get any help from the reapportionment folks over at the legislature if we're going to do it by ourselves this year.
So we're going to work with we will have a public meeting, I believe, at some point. I'm just telling council, we're going to work with our GIS people to help guide us through, beginning with the first data point we need is what the current districts look like in terms of population. We have grown by 5,000 people or 6,000 people or so in the census, but we don't know how that fell. So if they fell even during the districts, then there's very little change. And so we will start that process. I will keep you all informed and as well as the public informed. Thank you. With that, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of legal.
Move to exit to executive session for purposes of legal.
Thank you, Jim. Second by Artie. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and we'll be back.
Saving money for Christmas. It's for the wife. Oh, it's the children. They just keep growing. Started out as two kids. We got two batches, $200. Then there's a child that I help raise. Too much overhead. Everything multiplies. Your joy is multiplied. Then I got two stepchildren. So it's like, I started out 100 and now it's like I have to take a loan. But I'm okay. And your joy is multiplied. Oh, yeah. 3 grandchildren, right? All right. partners for some of the high level, partners advice for some of the high level stuff. And she can do all of the grunt work. So, you know, and she's in practice because she's been helping her brother do, she had an elderly aunt that was like 97 or 98 who passed in January. Dale's the executive, but really he and Carolyn have been tag teaming it. And so she's up on all the basics. It's really just the high level stuff that Bob has and Chris didn't have.
You got Central Park. Yeah, Central Park.
Oh. They live in Fort Worth and she really loves Fort Worth. And I was like, I couldn't say that.
It's gonna cost you $5,000